We're going to go ahead and call to order our Beaumont Economic Development Committee. I'm going to take roll. Bernie Ballin.
Present.
Bertha Barraza. Randy Harris, absent. Terrence Davis, present. Jennifer Higgins.
Present.
Julio Martinez, absent. Michael McGraw, absent. Rob Moran, absent. He's like, that's not my name. Todd Parton, don't see Todd. Is Todd? Are you?
APTAP's here on behalf of Todd.
Okay. So, okay, Kyle Warzinski is
I'm here.
Lloyd White,
I'm here.
our illustrious mayor. Vacant Beaumont business rep. Are we going to be talking about that this evening, Kyle?
Yeah, I can talk
Okay.
about that quickly under
Number 2.
Discussion of committee vacancies.
Okay.
that one.
Oh, that would be easy. And there are 2 vacancies that are open
Yes,
because of Jeff and
Mark.
Mark. Okay. And we're supposed to have a student here this evening by the name of Dylan Odell. Dylan Odell. He's a senior at Beaumont High School.
Leo Martinez.
Okay, so I do not see him. And Mr. Martinez just walked in. He's not too late, so he won't have too many demerits.
You don't have to go to the office to check in first.
Okay, so if we can, oh, there's
Mr.
Mr.
McGraw
McGraw
here.
as well. Oh, look at this, all right. Mr. McGraw's present, and Mr. Martinez just walked in. Okay, it says action on any request for excused absence. And do we know of anyone else that is not going to be here that was excused? Do we know? Like Randy and Rob? I think those are the only 2.
Or Todd.
Or Todd. Yeah, Todd. Okay. So let's, if we can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Ms. Higgins, if you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
No.
No? Okay, we're going to go ahead and approve the agenda. Do we have to take a vote for that, Kyle?
No, we don't have any adjustments, so we're good.
Okay. Any agenda item that presents a conflict of interest for anyone this evening? Seeing none? Okay, so at this point, we're going to have public comments. Is there anyone to address the committee under public comments? Seeing none? Okay. So we're going to move right on to action item number 1. Approve the minutes from the regular meeting of August 9th, 2017. So everyone had a chance to look at that, and do we have any discrepancies or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Bernie,
Second.
second by Ms. Higgins. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't here for it.
So Mayor White will abstain. So unanimous approval, 1 absence. Number 2, discussion of committee vacancies are 2 Beaumont business rep positions.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. So we recently had another resignation from Mark Turner from San Gregorio Pass Memorial Hospital. So he's moved on from that position as their CEO, and we have another vacancy. So we are currently out on the street with applications through City Hall, and we're looking forward to receiving applicants and going to council and kind of vetting that process. If anyone knows of anyone that would be able to represent that sector, they don't necessarily need to own a business in Beaumont, but maybe a business somewhere else outside the city and happen to reside in Beaumont. That would definitely qualify. And we'll see who applies. So if you know of anyone, please pass along the word. They can either contact me or Ashley in our office for the applications or find it on our website. it's probably easier just to give me a call and I can shoot an email out to them with the application. We don't have a firm deadline for that because we do have two vacancies, so we're kind of filling it as we can. So if you can assist in getting the word out that we have a couple of those and people would like to be interested and participate in the committee, we would appreciate it.
Would we consider the replacement CEO, the new hospital CEO?
I could probably reach out to that individual. I have yet to meet him or her, so I'll go ahead and make that contact.
I would say it, or somebody from the hospital. I mean, I think the hospital being as large of an employer as it is matters, but I know the other part for Mark is it was difficult for him to be here
Sure.
as a CEO.
Right.
So, I mean, if it's their COO or whatever, controller, somebody who can
Okay.
represent that entity, I think would be worth the trouble.
My question is the application on the website?
Yes.
Is it to fill the rest of the term,
Yes.
which is?
I'm not sure exactly. You caught me off on that one, so I don't know. Depending on which one, I don't know if they're on the same term, which would be for the end of this year, or if it would be for a year and 2 or 3 months. But as you know, if we appoint them for the remainder of this year, in all likeliness, they would be reappointed to serve a new term come January.
So Kyle, the city has another committee, I think that went out in the paper and people had to apply. And you're not talking about doing that with this committee, right?
That was the Blue Ribbon Committee related to the capital improvement plan. So they're also, the city is also soliciting interested applicants to sit on that committee as well. And if you're sitting on this committee and you'd like to be a part of that one, being a member of this one does not preclude you for being a member on that task force or committee. That's related to reviewing the capital improvement plan and prioritizing large infrastructure projects for the city in the near and long term.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, let's move on to item number 3, update of the projects from the city.
I'll make this real short so that way we can have Dan from the Water District do his presentation and we can do a question and answer session after that. But we are in the process of getting through grading plans and recording the final map for the commercial center down there at First and Highland Springs. It's a really good example to keep the committee updated on this because you probably get tired of hearing me say the same things over and over month to month. But it kind of shows you how certain projects just linger out there. So they go really, really slow, and then by the time they break ground, they build the thing in 7 months, and then they're open for operation. But getting them to that point where they break ground is always painstaking, to say the least. So I do provide updates on that one, whether they be large or small. We've been meeting with the other property owners nearby on their 14 acres, and they're still looking at that movie theater concept. They're looking at the large fitness place as well as some other retail and service going in there. We've had interest with a large manufacturing company on an existing, you can call it a warehouse building, but a very large high-cube warehouse building out there on 4th Street that exists today. So we're in discussions with them. We're coordinating meetings with that prospective buyer and manufacturing business with our local utilities. So we've met with gas company, we've met with the city sewer department, we've met with Southern California Edison, and we have a meeting upcoming tomorrow with the water district to go through that process on how they're able to get water, pay their connection fees, set up service if they need additional facilities constructed and so forth. And hopefully that discussion goes well and we can be seeing them close escrow on a building that's probably $20-something million. And then hopefully they install the same amount of money in terms of equipment within that building. They're talking about a decent amount of job creation and food manufacturing, so it's a little bit unique, but we'll see what happens with that. If we have any other updates, I'll make sure to bring that back to the committee. And then obviously we're progressing with the State Route 60 Potrero interchange. So we are currently out to bid on that project, and that bid closes sometime in November. You know the date?
16.
November 16th, bid opens. So we are anxious to see what those prices are, and hopefully they're below what we think they should be. And we get really good competitive bids, and we can move forward on awarding that contract and getting that project done. I think at next Tuesday's meeting, we're presenting an item to City Council for the construction management for that type of project. So those are typically projects that you go out with an outside firm that specializes in management of these types of interchanges, and you hire them to manage the process from the very beginning to the very end to make sure it's done correctly, the inspections are done, soil sampling and materials are all performed. Not many times do you have city staff perform that, because then when you're not building an interchange, you have these specialists on staff that aren't building an interchange. So then what do you do with them? So you pay them a lot of money to work on one thing, and then the rest of the time they're fixing sidewalks. It just doesn't make sense. So you go about it that way through a professional service agreement. And then we're on track and on schedule with our wastewater treatment plant update, which our Public Works Director presented at, it was probably the last meeting we had, because we had we went dark, and then we had the League of Cities last month. So it seems a while ago, but it was a couple months ago. So we're on track with that project as well.
There's going to be update to council on the 17th on the whole project.
So watch us.
And then Xenia also. Right?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So Xenia, if you haven't noticed,
Yes.
is getting a facelift.
Yeah.
To put it nicely, it's being completely reconstructed and repaved, so that'll be nice. So we no longer can refer to Xenia as the worst street in the city. When it's complete, we'll have to pick a new one, and then we'll hopefully work on fixing that one next year.
And it's nice to see the sign up, just to say we're working on, I mean, so you can see the
Really
progress.
nice from us.
Yeah.
We know that we have not done those types of improvements in years, and we as staff are excited that council has allowed us to do that, and we're moving forward with a proactive approach on fixing some of these streets, on taking care of some of the bad ones first that the residents have really been inquiring about for years.
Good.
I was amazed the short period of time we were out there the other day, how busy that street is. Never realized that before.
Part of that project is Oak Valley rehab from Cherry to Beaumont Avenue as well.
So that's all we have from city staff today.
Any questions?
How's the, Sonic progressing okay?
Sonic just got their sign program approved last night. If you're familiar with Sonics, they have signs all over the building, and that didn't jive or didn't mesh with the sign program originally approved for the center, because we didn't know Sonic was going to come in at that point in time. So we had Planning Commission amend the sign program to allow for additional signs and those fun menu boards that you park next to. So no sign program envisioned that. So they have 18 of those menu boards at each of the parking stalls, so we had to amend the program to allow for those, which if you don't, then Sonic just doesn't build, because that's their trademark. So that was approved last night, and they're in the process of building plans, and then the grading plans in process, as well as the map. So you'll see the map come to city council, whether it won't be the 17th, so probably November meeting, to record the final map, and then that'll parcelize out the pieces, and then Sonic can build and Panera will build. So most of those are in plan check.
So we're working well with them. We're not any of the problems they're going.
No, at this point, I think most departments are probably sick and tired of me checking in on them on where we're at on the process. So if the ball's being dropped, it's in the developer's court and definitely not city staff's court. Because they know I'm coming the next day to find out what's going on anyway.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Kyle. Let's go ahead and move to item number 4, Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District update.
So Chairman, this is Dan Jaggers, the general manager over at Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District. And like I said, in the past couple months or so, we've been trying to get our utilities into the Economic Development Committee to basically explain kind of where they're at in the process, what their district does or what their agency does, and let us know or kind of do a presentation on what they do to stimulate growth, what their resources are. In this case, Dan's in the water business, so what water they have, where it comes from, and what they're doing to what incentives they may have, and so forth. So we'll let him do a presentation. We can go ahead and do questions after that if we have time.
Well,
Thanks for coming, Dan.
good afternoon. I didn't realize I was giving a presentation and all that stuff, but I'll give it a
It can
shot.
be real quick.
Certainly, we're in the water business. We're supporting the existing economic growth as to the best of our ability. With the work that was done in the past, there's a lot of houses still left to be built, obviously, and that presents its own challenges from water supply. We work diligently at this point with the PASS agency to figure out a strategy moving forward for making sure those water supplies are available to the constituents. The PASS agency is a critical component of that supply, and I think we're beginning to really move forward on a recycled water opportunity with the city of Beaumont, which is good. It's been planned for a long time. So I guess from the perspective of economic growth, if there's no water, there's no growth, most likely. So we're doing our part to get that stuff focused and resolved. What we're doing, we've launched a CIP program, which hasn't really been active for a number of years, probably since 2010. And this year we're drilling 4 wells, mostly in the northeast area of the Beaumont/Cherry Valley development area to support the current large growth activities over in the Sundance North community, as well as K-Hovnanian Homes, and manage some of our recharge water mound that gets created through our recharge facilities at Beaumont Avenue and Brookside. And so we've also got a reservoir and pipeline project that's where we've received engineering services proposals on and plan on commencing those processes here in the next month or so, as well as a 3-component pipeline replacement project, one of them in the city down between 5th and 6th Street, kind of east of California, around California, and then 2 up in Cherry Valley, 100-year-old lines or so that need to be replaced. And so we're moving, we're getting things done. We had a change in management recently that has created some stall, but I think we've picked back up and are moving forward. And so those are kind of the major activities we have going on. That reservoir and pipeline that I talked about is also to serve the new growth up in the northwest of or northeast of the city. So in the last year or so, we completed and adopted a master plan for our facilities that hasn't been updated since and adopted by our board since 1994. So we're proud of that, and we're getting a lot of things done. So just like you guys are doing. So it's all good. If you have any questions, I'm more than interested in fielding anything.
How many employees work with the?
I think right now we're about 32. So, and our board, 5-member board, so 37 overall, I guess, if you want to count them.
And how far does the jurisdiction go west?
So westerly, the east boundary is Highland Springs, and the west boundary goes up into Cherry Valley and then kind of along and works its way back, goes up through parts of Oak Glen or the Mesa, and then it comes back down and sort of hits Cherry Valley Boulevard by kind of stair-stepping down, and at around Hannon Road, it starts hitting Cherry Valley Boulevard, and we go west along Cherry Valley Boulevard and across the freeway over into Calamasa a little bit, and then where the Tournament Hills development is, we kind of hug the top of that, not the summer wind to the north.
Okay.
Right through there is the boundary. We go down to the corner of Fairway Canyons development and San Timoteo, and then we come back down San Timoteo a ways, and we cross over and go south, kind of down through the Jackrabbit Trail area, and then cut through the hillsides and then back around, and where K. Hovnanian Homes development is, we come back and hit Highland Springs.
And who's the water company of Summer Wind?
Ukaipa Valley Water District.
And I ask only because as the school district builds schools, there's some space out in Summer Wind.
Right.
That we'll have to work through with. Okay.
If you could speak to a couple issues, I'm somewhat familiar with your relationship with the water agency, but I think it would be helpful for the group here to understand the water district and the past water agency, the relationship. And then the other question I had for you was, what is the process if the city has a prospective company who wants to come in? Where does the water district fit into that process?
All right. Question one. Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District is the retailer in the region, so we provide water to the customer who uses it for consumption or process. The San Gregorio Pass Water Agency is one of 29 state of California water contractors who wholesales water to the retailers, those retailers being Ukaipa Valley Water District, South Mesa, Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District, City of Banning, and a few others. They serve Cabazon and on out that way. City of Banning, if I didn't say that. I did say that. And so their duty, as they stated, is to provide more water supply for the region. That's what they've sort of been promoting. They adopted a capacity fee in 2015 that they've had some challenges getting adopted, but we need to get it adopted because it puts the burden on the proper people to pay as they go, so to speak. That being said, I think there's been some not seeing eye to eye. Ukaipa Valley Water District just adopted a capacity fee based on their capacity fee, but sort of for their own collection. And so we're trying to work with the City of Banning to get to a consensus where there's a strategy on how that moves forward so that it makes sense, it's fair and equitable for everybody, and it services the community at the lowest and best cost, and it sets in, provides for a costing of the water portfolio that they're proposing. And so that's moving along pretty quickly, but we need to keep working on it. So I'll just say that the passing has some ideas, and they've sort of been a little less than approachable, but we're hoping to resolve that and make that better.
Dan, I wasn't trying to set you up.
That's all right.
I meant relationship. I meant you answered it. The first part is
Okay.
You're a wholesaler. We're the retailer. You're the retailer.
Yeah, so we need to buy
Beaumont's
the
the
water.
customer.
We need to buy the water from them. More water is needed for the region, and if they can't get it, we have to come up with other solutions. And so it's very important that they participate in economic development.
Dan, what are their sources of water?
Currently, their source of water is a project called the State Water Project, which collects water in Northern California, conveys it through the Sacramento River and the Feather River, brings it down through the Delta, pumps it out of the Delta into canals, through canals and booster stations, and delivers it ultimately to us through a pipeline called the East Branch Extension. And so that's been expanded to get more water supply out here. Now they just got to basically find a location for that water, and it's not inexpensive water.
You made mention that you're drilling wells and doing some things, so obviously not 100% of the water you guys are retailing is through.
Well,
what is that percentage?
we import water. At this point, the local water supply is close to being at the end of the supply volume, so more needs to be gotten. This passing, they just execute a deal for 1,700 acre feet a year, and so that does it. Things like recycle water coming into play do it. We think there might be an opportunity to put into action 1,200 acre feet of recycle water right now, just with the seasonal constraints we have. So what does that mean if a house uses a half an acre feet a year or so? Then that's 2,400 houses worth of, to put that in perspective. 1,700 acre feet is about 2 times that where the house is. So we just need to keep working on these things. We have some long-term plans with them, an item that's a storage reservoir north of the Sacramento Delta called the Sites Reservoir. We are involved in it, and so is the pass for 14,000 acre feet. So that could be 28,000 more homes, kind of a thing. But it's, if it goes, it's a 5-stage process to get to where it's built. And it's right now it's in this phase 1 process to get Prop 1 funding. And as it migrates across the next year or two, we'll get a real feel for if it's a real project. But all intents purposes, it's real at this point. And so those are critical for water supply, but there's a period where we don't have enough and we have to get to where we have enough. And when those things happen, we just got to figure out solutions to get across those periods of less than perfect water supply. And that could be done by spot water purchases and things of that nature. So anyway, it's a lot of challenges there, but
when new businesses come in, they don't need to deal with all of that. They just come to the.
So new business, we have 2 approaches, and we have existing places that have a change of use where there is significant change of use, and the way we have historically assessed the cost of their water needs for their project is to do an analysis of the style of business, warehouse, low water demand. Manufacturing could be high, bottling water plant, very high. And so they pay a amount commensurate with their use when they sign a facilities agreement with us. So if there's a change of use, we have assessed them the difference, if it goes up significantly. So they pay their fair share. And what that means is we have a nexus study that assigns a facilities fee. So to support new development, you have the existing facilities, you have new facilities you need, and those new facilities need to be built, and they're to be built with monies paid for by the new people. So we have a facilities fee that basically takes the cost of the need, divides it by the number that's coming, and that's the cost that they pay, is that per unit share of the needed facilities to support the growth. And so a new business typically gets involved, a new development, brand new. We will not provide service at a staff level, so it's a board action item to ask for service, provide service. So they come in, they identify we'd like service, they identify what their project is. The First Street stuff we were talking about is an example. They had a plan of development, they changed the plan of development, they came back in, we assessed their water usage, took it to our board. They got an updated will serve letter for that project, although it may be expired at this point, something to note to them. And so at the end, it's a board action. It goes in front of the public. Everybody knows what's going on. Once they're through the will serve process, they submit plans for improvements that are related to our water facilities to us. We plan check it just like you plan check your facilities, and or the city does. And once those are approved, we execute a agreement with them to provide service based on their improvements that are required to serve their property. And so it's a similar process to what the city uses. And generally it's fairly painless, other than maybe the payments for the large water consumers. But it's a process that has been ongoing for quite a long time, so nothing new from the development perspective. Consistent, I think, with the industry.
With the current growth and the need to drill more wells or do other items, how does that affect our rates?
So the wells, very nicely, first of all. The wells, we have 2 wells that are slated for replacement wells in our program right now, and 2 wells that are new wells. And so those facility fees we collect from the development community are paying for the new wells. So that's probably about $10 million worth of facilities, just kind of on a ballpark number. Drilling it's about $1 million a well, and equipping it after all the soft costs is about $4 million all in. There's 2 existing wells. So the new wells are funded by new development. The existing wells are wells from the 30s, and we have, let's say we have $130 million worth of existing facilities that we have a depreciation component built into our rate study. So every year we put $2 million or so away. That's depreciated off of our depreciation register for all of our facilities. So as they age out, you put an incremental cost of replacement away for them. And once a facility fails, we take that component piece that's taken out of the rate because it's an existing facility at the end of its service life, and we fund the replacement of that facility. So 2 wells are new, 2 wells are replacements. Those wells are located 12th and Palm and 12th in Michigan at our operations center site, and then a site we own. And they, like I said, they've been in town since the 1936. I might have said 60s, but 1936. And so the new reservoir is funded from facilities fees by developers. In particular, the people who've been paying in a lot lately are Kehamnanian and Sundance in particular. And so their growth up in that area needs those services, and so that's where we're spending the money. And so there's a couple of other components that we're using. We've got a storm drain project, and there's a grant that we received through Riverside County Flood Control, distributed by SAPA, the Santa Ana Watershed Project Authority, and that's a Prop 84 grant. So it's a 3-person or a 3 funding source project. We're putting in about $2 million. The Flood Control Agency's putting in $2 million, and it's a $1.22 million grant. And so we get money from a variety of sources, but we don't get tax money because we're a special district, so it's all funded through rates or development deposits or grants.
So as of the homeowners, our rate shouldn't, or will they standard increase?
Loaded questions, but we have a rate study that expired in 2015. The previous gentleman didn't want to address it because of the drought, and was very proud to say he wasn't raising rates. Whether they need to be raised or not, that's done through a analysis prepared by a financial institution typically. And so I don't feel comfortable commenting on whether the rates should go up or should go down. We're waiting to see what the pass agency's doing for water cost and how that might be applied and strategized. But at the end of the day, our rate study was a 5-year rate study. It's typical. It expired in 2015, so we will certainly be doing a rate study. And whether they're going to go up or stay level, I will say we live in California, and
Yeah.
I've been here since '91.
Most of the time they go up. Our rates go up. It's just a cost of
Right.
providing the service to more customers with
curious.
I'll give you-
increased power and those types of things.
I'll give you an example of our meters. When I got here, I assessed what they cost us. We were losing money because the previous staff hadn't adjusted the cost of a water service meter for the new development. And we were collecting about half of what we should have been, and we were losing about $150,000 in revenue every year. And so we did a real assessment of cost, and we updated that. That was 2 years ago, and since that period, the cost of the body of the water meter's gone up about $100. So I don't know if that's related to increased construction activity or the cost of brass, but things aren't getting cheaper in the world, unfortunately.
Sure.
So I would suspect the rates will follow suit. But we're doing our best to keep it at a cost-effective pace.
Okay.
Just real quick. So as the city, as we're focusing on our economic development, basically, how would you like to see the city and the water district work together a little better so that our communication is improved? City's trying to work a little more closely with the school district, parks district, water district, so we can make sure everybody's kind of on the same plan, make sure our plans are feasible with the water availability and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think, certainly, I think I've been over here more times in the last 2 months than I've been over here in the last 5.5 years. So it wasn't through a choice of mine, but our door's open. I think we come over on short notice, try to accommodate kind of the request from the city staff to provide input, and our intent is to ensure that we have understanding of where we are. I have actually something for Todd Parton to discuss, kind of an option for wastewater treatment, recycle water and stuff like that, that our board feels is an idea worth considering. And once Todd gets it, maybe he'll come talk to you once he digests it, or at least the city council. So I was hoping to see him here today.
He had to run to a doctor appointment.
Okay, I'll bring it in the morning.
We can go visit him there, but it's probably not going to be any fun.
I've got a personnel committee
Yeah.
in about 45 minutes, so
And you have your regular meetings on?
tonight, the second Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m.
So you have one tomorrow then, right?
Today's Wednesday.
Tonight?
Yes. I'll hope to see you there.
I'm with the college and we have a degree in water technology. Do you expect a growth for employment?
Certainly we were actually, before I came over, we were talking about, one of the things we're doing when we talk about rates is we look at our staffing level, and we haven't adjusted our staffing level for quite a few years. With the economic downturn, we actually furloughed people, and we've never really gained any positions, although we've added a few thousand houses worth of development. And so one of the things we're looking at is staffing. The other thing I think we should be promoting is intern-type shifts for some of the people who get those activities. I know some of the bigger districts are doing that, and that's a cost-effective way for us to help somebody out who needs some experience, as well as get some temporary staff kind of activities working where you don't burden the ratepayer with more than we need. But seasonally, we have some things we do that, we do a lot of weed abatement. We own a lot of land here in the city, and there's always activities for somebody to participate in various levels, and we haven't been doing that very well, but I'd like to see that.
We are always looking for companies.
Yeah. So I was the director of engineering for 5.5 years over there, and so I instituted an intern program for college engineering students last year, and that's turned out really well for us. So I want to migrate that across. I'd like to see accounting staff as well as field staff and water technologies personnel. So.
Add on to your question, so with pavement projects, we will be having moratorium on streets, so they, for 5 years or 3 years, so the utilities don't come and rip our brand new streets. So Dan has been working with us. 8th Street project is coming up. We're gonna bring a co-op agreement in front of the council for approval which will be part of the contract. They will go ahead and we'll enter into reimbursement agreement, and it'll be part of the contract to replace their line. And then that way we can do our pavement project. And so
Yeah, I think it's been fairly short on our radar, but I think we've committed to sort of hitting some pretty quick dates for you guys.
So you do maintenance on the existing infrastructure so that you
Well,
don't have to rip the road up?
That particular project, just described it, they're doing a pavement replacement project where they're gonna go down into the existing subgrade and do some structural sort of bolstering of the subgrade below the pavement. And we have some facilities, the pipelines are in pretty good shape, but the services that run over the houses are old galvanized pipes, and they actually come up vertically 12 to 18 inches and then go across. And when the work is done, those galvanized pipes will most likely be in the space where the work is being done. And so what we've agreed to do is to fund a replacement project for those services. So there's a valve at the top of the pipe, and we're going to put a new service into the meter. And so certainly there's a cost to us, but we don't want to be in there. First of all, the project will have a significant problem because there's 60 or 70 services that are affected. And as soon as they get out there, there'll be water everywhere. And so it makes sense to work together and do the work while it's mutually beneficial. So that's the plan. And as we move forward, hopefully we'll plan kind of an annual project, if that's the way you guys are approaching it, so that we can kind of get on track early and make sure, because if it was a pipeline replacement project, if that pipe was, we wouldn't physically probably have the time to do the drawing set to create the work. Our process for the pipeline facilities replacement is a little more robust of a pipeline set than a typical street section replacement would be. So we will need to coordinate the more as we move forward. But we're getting there.
Okay.
Dan, one last question that I have, and we're asking each of the utilities this, is does the district or does the board currently have any incentives for for like certain economic development prospects as it relates to connections or rates or either or?
I don't believe we really do at the moment, but if you can get a business in here that makes water, I'm sure we would incentivize it.
That or gold, I'm working on both.
So,
I have one last question. Often I get people calling me up thinking that the water is the city's water, wanting to complain about misuse or abuse of water. You guys have a,
yes, we have a reporting mechanism.
is that just on your website then?
We take phone calls also, and you know, with the drought that went on, there's still some lingering conservation items that have sort of been bolstered, but I will say we've experienced some. We're getting back on our feet after a little bit of shakeup that started in July, so I think if there's been a short-term lag in that, it's probably because we're focused on other things, but we'll certainly be circling back around to that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
And what is the weather forecast for the winter? Do you know?
Sunny and clear, probably.
Sunny and clear.
If I was able to forecast that, there's probably a bet you can lay down somewhere on weather and water. And you know, it's hard to say the state water project, which provides water in that system I discussed, typically starts out with a very low, what they call an allocation. So to put it in perspective, I think south of the Sacramento River, the state water project has a conveyance capacity of somewhere around 2.6 million acre feet per year. So that's 2.6 million acres of water a foot deep is what that number means. And so over 11 months, they can deliver that quantity of water to the various entities. And they start out with a 20% of that as a delivery, or 30% depending on what they're seeing, and they let go of it usually around December. And then as they move into the spring, by April or so, they look at the storage in the reservoirs like Oroville and Shasta and Trinity. And if they're all the way up, then they start moving water, you know. And so we saw it this year. We were in a drought, and with the rains we got in Northern California in the last year and a half, everything filled up to a point where they had overflow of spillways in Oroville that never happened before, you know. So the amazing thing about those northern reservoirs is when they're full, they have not much capacity because the top 20% of those reservoirs are designed to be flood control facilities. And so when a big rain event is coming that they know about, they dump water and it goes under the Golden Gate Bridge, so we lose it for water supply, and they gain capacity for stormwater protection for the downstream developments below those dams along the Sacramento and Feather River. And so that's the one project I was talking about, the Sites Reservoir Storage Project, would be good because some of that stuff could be captured and moved on down a little bit. And so those reservoirs were at like all-time historic lows, right? A year and a half ago, running out of water, worst drought in California. And in 1 year, we filled them all up and actually had to release 700,000 acre feet of water or more.
Into the ocean.
And then they poured it, when Oroville's spillway went down, they poured half the lake out, you know. So we gave away a tremendous, that water that went under the Golden Gate Bridge, to put it in perspective, could have supplied this region with probably 50 or 100 years worth of water. Because we think in 2040, we want 28,000 acre feet of water, and we have 10,000, so we need 14,000. And so if you put that in perspective, if you lost 700,000 acre feet, just to put a real number to it, and we needed another 14,000 at build out, that's 50 years worth of water in a shot for an area like ours. So it's stuff to be interested in because it makes a big difference.
I thought the new management at the water district solved the drought.
I did I'm not gonna say a rain dance, but I would do it if it worked.
Okay, well, Jaggers, is that?
Yes, correct.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jaggers, for
All right.
your information. Very enlightening, and I'm sure it provides a lot of perspective for some folks more than others, but really good information.
Water is an important commodity.
Necessity. That's right.
And it'll be more important as we move forward in time. So it's important to do the recycle water project with you guys. It's been talked about for 30 years, and we're ready to get it going. I think the city is too, so.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to item number 5, which is business attraction and retention process.
So this is one of the items that was on that topics for future agendas list that was getting fairly large. So we decided to take one of these things off and go ahead and discuss it tonight. Obviously, we're not going to come up with any end solution, but at least we'll talk to you about the current attraction and retention process that the city has, and then kind of some of at least my plans, and I think something that the city manager has been talking about for a little bit of time since he's been here, and kind of where we want to grow the package. And some of it deals with incentives. So I put city incentives discussion on there because I'll go ahead and relay the types of incentives that we offer today. And I was hoping Rob would be here because he has like every incentive known to man memorized, so he could pitch in ones that we may not be aware of or we're not utilizing to its fullest extent. So currently right now, the business attraction retention process is fairly streamlined and fairly simple. So retention, it's more reactionary than proactive. So we do not have staff or time available to go and meet with current businesses once every year, once every 2 years, or once every 3 years. We just don't do it. So we know a couple businesses that we focus on in terms of our major key players within the city, and I reach out to them and see how they're doing and request information from them if they need anything from me, or if there's been laws that have been passed through Sacramento that affect them negatively or in converse in a beneficial way. So we know to give our legislators a pat on the back for something that's assisted them. That rarely happens, but it could happen. So we react to things. A good example of that is when Beaumont Motorsports was looking at going to banning. We find out way late in the game because we haven't visited them very often. Banning offered them a sweet deal on a building that they happened to own or somehow gained possession of. We were not able to counter that because we didn't own a building of that sort that had freeway frontage. Or at least major street frontage, so they ended up relocating there. So retention efforts are very small and minimal on our daily workload. We do a lot more work on attraction. What we don't do is simply cold call developers or cold call businesses like In-N-Out Burger, for example. We don't just pick up the phone every month and give them a call and say, hey, you want to come to Beaumont? It just doesn't work. It's not effective use of our time here at city staff, and like I alluded to, there's only one person in economic development, that's me, and then Todd as well works on that stuff. So we're kind of a team working together. But what we do try to accomplish is we work with developers that own land. A good example is the one that Councilmember Martinez came up with, which is the Panera Bread. So we have a developer that's interested in a piece of land. They're in the process of buying it, and they meet with us to figure out what their fees are going to be, if there's water availability. So we send them off to the water district to iron out that service agreement. We set them up with the other utilities. We tell them what types of businesses the community has been asking for, and then we go ahead and we start working with that developer hand in hand to attract those businesses to the shopping center. A lot of times they already have businesses in mind that they've been talking to before even starting escrow or purchasing the property, and we start meeting with them. And other times we'll call someone and then we'll refer that business that's interested in this trade area to that developer. And why I said we don't cold call is because if I can't land In-N-Out when I call them a location, then it's wasting their time. And the worst thing I can do is waste their time, and then they're thinking, okay, well, Beaumont keeps calling us, we want to go there, but they can't find us a property. And since we don't own the property, that's why we don't do that. We have to have that partner, that's the developer, to go ahead and construct something or get the bank financing to construct it. So we work on that a lot. And then other times we have opportunities that just magically present themselves to us. There's requests from information that come out from the county that we respond to, but some of the random ones that come across are the ones that we're going to be dealing with tomorrow, and we've dealt with a couple times, which are vacancies. So a business finds us, they find a vacant building that they're interested in. It's somewhat for sale, so they find out who the broker is for that building, and they're looking at us as well as 10 or 15 other sites. Wolverine's a good example. So they know they want to be in California. They wanted to expand their footprint into Southern California. So they need to pick a site. So then they call cities that have available land or available buildings. We meet with them, the developers, the utilities, and do a dog and pony show on why we're the best place, and hopefully we win. And they don't choose Moreno Valley. They don't choose Paris. When it comes down to it, it's typically financing. So how much does it cost to be here? What are the utility costs to be here? And what incentives the city offers, if any, and the type of place. So we're competitive on price. We're fairly competitive on our connection fees and all that fun stuff. We provide incentives only if need be, as in we don't throw free money out there to every single business, because normally they would have penciled a project without our money. Certain scenarios, when it makes sense for our council and makes sense for our staff, we do offer incentives in terms of sales tax sharing, discounted impact fees, so lower impact fees. We provide them incentivized rates if they construct certain facilities for our sewer. So if they take care of systems or their system on site for sewer treatment, our sewer treatment plant doesn't have to do that, so we can provide them a cheaper rate. It's not necessarily giving away money, but it's incentivizing them to design something that operates more efficiently, that will save them money at the tail end when it comes to their monthly bill. And then that's most of the stuff we do for those. And then, like I said, the last one, which when I first started 11 years ago, I didn't think mattered too much, which is that sense of place or that community itself. But turns out some businesses will actually pay more money to be here because of the community than somewhere else. So I would think that Wolverine would, if it came down to just money, they would have landed somewhere else. But we were able to provide them a community with a small town feel, great atmosphere in terms of air quality, great climate, a good school district for their employees, a quality workforce here within the city and our surrounding communities. And we were competitive on that price number. We wouldn't have been able to convince them, even with all of our fun stuff that we have here, if the price was way too high. But we were competitive, and I think they chose us because we as staff and our council welcomed them, and we're excited about that business, and we're able to offset some of their improvements with some money towards the end, and it's all performance-based. So the better they sell out of that facility on the internet or to retail establishments in California, we retain sales tax, and we were able to share that with them based on performance. So we retain 100% of it up to a certain benchmark, and then it gets split percentage-wise up to, once they hit like 40 million in taxable sales, I think they get a decent amount of that pie at that point in time. But they hit 40 million. That's really, really good for the community as well as the business. So it's kind of a win-win scenario. So like I said, the attraction and retention process isn't the greatest, but we're very limited in terms of the amount of staff hours that we have here. So Todd and I have talked about increasing the staffing, growing the department so we're able to visit the businesses while working on normal day-to-day activities, which are helping planning department, reviewing those things, bringing in businesses, meeting with people, answering questions, making sure other departments aren't being a problem with. So we want the developer always to be the person holding the ball, not us. So expediting plan checks and things like that. So it's something that we're looking at increasing. You got to grow small. You don't want to grow too fast. So it'll be something that I think the management will be sharing with council. But in terms of other incentives that are out there, I mean, man, it never ends when you talk about what cities offer businesses. They'll offer them land. They'll offer them buildings they own at discounted prices. They'll share property tax. They'll share utility taxes. All of those things, in my opinion, have their place, but it has to be a unique scenario. We don't share sales tax with any business in the city except for Wolverine. And that was only because they're coming in, their projections were in the tens of millions of dollars, and their cost of services to the city is not high. We don't entertain it with Walmart. We don't entertain it with Best Buy, because if we're going to be rebating their sales tax, we still have to show up when there's an issue. Our police and fire have to be there, and we have to take care of that expenditure on our budget. Wolverine, they have their own security. It's a really big building. It's a secured facility. I can't imagine someone walking in there and trying to walk out with product. You're not going to get very far. So calls of service are low. So we're able to look at how much our costs are to serve that building and the business and rebate a certain portion based on performance. We don't just do it. That's why we entertain that. And we would be willing to do that with other businesses, but it has to be on a case-by-case basis. We're not that interested in doing it across the board for every business that probably could have penciled their project anyway and just was able to pad their budget by additional 4% on their profit. So hopefully that answers any questions. If anyone has any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer those.
In the last 5 years, aside from Wolverine, is there any other businesses that we've been successful in attracting to the area? Or has it been kind of tough?
We got Icon Health and Fitness. So that was that other large building that's out there off 4th Street. They sell Nordic Track and Proform and those types of fitness equipment.
Uh-huh.
If you ever want some, they have a factory store there. That's where I bought mine.
Oh, okay.
Good discount, but it's like dinged up or whatever, but it's good.
Icon off 4th?
Yeah, Icon Health and Fitness. It's like 630 Nicholas Road is their address. So that one was a big one. They're a nationwide company that has these big name brands that are all under the Icon umbrella. And they needed an area where they would take product and then distribute it to their sports chalet or those types of end users. Their Walmarts, any of those. They're the ones that supply those equipment. So if you see Nordic Track equipment, it's coming from this building in Beaumont. Almost guaranteed that's where it's coming from. If you order it online, it's gonna come from this building in Beaumont. I bought their treadmill here, and then of course I got the little Fitbit thing that works with their treadmill, and it shipped, and it took like a week to get to my house, and it came from Beaumont. I could have driven over there and picked the thing up and saved you shipping, but I wasn't thinking it was gonna come from our own facility. But yep, it does. So they have that stuff too, and they, believe it or not, they didn't think they were going to produce much sales tax whatsoever from that facility, but they do pretty good. Online sales and what we see from that factory store. So that was a nice one. We've succeeded on keeping Paracone here. That was one where they were thinking of moving, and we allowed them to expand. So you've seen their new building if you've driven off Veely. If not, go check it out. It's a pretty nice looking building in terms of the juice.
So is there anything like the Economic Development Committee or the citizens of the community could do to help expedite bringing businesses to the area?
Sure.
Or, is it strictly going to be that one roadblock of we don't have a location for them, so it's kind of a moot point to approach or to try to think outside the box and get this committee helping in some way or getting citizens or, is there anything we can do? Or
now that we're starting to see interest and we're having developers come in and get things approved and we actually have properties to showcase, we can go ahead and start doing a marketing campaign. We've talked about that before with some of our goals. Is if we can come up with a marketing campaign, we can work on the development of that strategic plan. that goes to council, and council sets forth the mission on what they want the city staff to be working on. We then have a roadmap to get from where we are today to those end goals, and that may be continuing with me in that department as a solo. It may be hiring a couple people. It may be expanding other departments to help facilitate that. It's hard to say, but I think that's kind of where we're at from the committee, is assisting those types of things. And then the other thing is, I know you guys hate listening to the utilities, but they're 100% needed for some of these businesses. So Dan talked about the cost of hooking up these businesses, and sometimes it's small, sometimes it's very large. I've seen, so for each house, it's $10,000 paid to the water district for a connection. For a business, it can be anywhere from $60,000 to $4 million. And that depends on what type of water use they're doing. Now, the big numbers are because they're using a lot of water. In fact, those jobs are the ones that are producing things. You don't see those from warehouse jobs, you see those from manufacturing. And that's where we can attract manufacturing jobs, but if we don't have that water service availability, then they'll go somewhere else and they'll expand and they'll create 400 jobs there and then make something in California in that place. So that's why we bring in the utilities, to show how integral they are into the process. But yeah, I think when we get started work on some of these other things, the general plan update is the thing to be focusing on right now from our perspective from the committee, because that's going to be possibly rezoning properties. So if we go higher density, that allows for different types of projects that we can't do today, just because the code doesn't allow it. And that may be better development, or it may be higher intensity development that generates more revenue or more jobs or more services. And then rezoning other land that may not even be commercial to commercial. Or the opposite of that, if you want to play devil's advocate, is taking land that is commercial and zoning it low density residential. That's the opposite. That's not necessarily what this committee's.
Build some more houses?
It'd be to limit the amount of houses. So to take other residential areas and lower the density to make it, instead of build out having 7,000 or 8,000 more houses, down to 2,000. And then that's all the people we're going to get here. And then if you'd like to try to attract a Costco when we have maybe 60,000 people at build out, it's just not going to happen. So that's why the general plan is very important for the growth of the city. So if you'd like the city grow economically, job-wise, retail and service-wise, if you live here and you shop here, that you have to be mindful of how we're going to be looking at the zoning and the land use designations within that plan. So that's kind of the near term, is work on that. If you haven't filled out the survey, please go online and fill that out. If you need a link, just send me an email and I'll shoot you a link to Rebecca's survey, which gives you an idea of what we're looking at, and you kind of get the vote on what projects you would rather see. So like they have the downtown one, which is, do you want it to be one story like it is now? Is it cool?
It's online right now, the survey
3
is?
stories, 4 stories, those types of things.
The survey's online, or did we get it emailed to us already?
You may have got it emailed if you signed up for their.
Oh, no.
If you signed up, if
Please
not,
resend it. Just
yeah, I can shoot it out
send
to
it
everyone.
the group.
That'd be great.
Was it on the Facebook page?
Probably.
It was, huh?
Oh, Ashley left. I was gonna say, Ashley, did you put it on the Facebook page?
Or I don't know, maybe I saw something about it.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do business owners seem concerned with crime and the homeless in the area? Or
We-
so what are we doing about that?
We send out police officers. So yes, we do get concerns when it comes to more the homeless and vagrants than actual crime. We have very low crime here, and that's that's an incentive that we boast to the businesses when we meet with them, is low crime rates. It doesn't save them any money, but indirectly it does. and they feel safe for their business as well as their employees and customers to locate here. So crime, we don't see too many. I mean, you're obviously going to get the idiots that try to go steal something from, what was it the other day? I don't remember what business, but then they ran across the freeway. So then our officers stopped at the freeway, went around, and then caught them on the other side of the freeway. But yeah, they actually made it across the freeway, carrying whatever they stole from whatever business it was. Yeah, we caught them, but yeah, our officers had to hoof it for a mile or so.
So that's a good thing. We have the police.
When we see, we encourage our business community to reach out to myself or a police chief if they see issues. So if they see problems, if they're encountering things often, we want to stop those things. And what we do is we send out officers and we increase patrol within areas. The homeless issue is something that's being dealt with statewide.
Right.
And we do our best to assist them if they would like assistance, and if not, figure out what they're doing. It's always an issue on private property, so you have to they have homeless rights as well. These people have rights to their property, so we can't just take their stuff and throw it away and tell them to move. So we take care of it how we can. We encourage them to go elsewhere, and the more you kind of bug them, the higher chance it is they'll go somewhere else in a community that isn't bugging or pestering them very often. We don't mess with them, but we inquire what's going on a daily basis or things like that, and eventually they get tired of speaking to a police officer, and they go find another location that's not occurring. So, I mean, but we don't see, and if you ever do see it, please call the police, homeless that are out there vandalizing or trying to accost people or solicit money in an aggressive way. They can always panhandle, but if it's aggressive or they get mad or angry, they're not allowed to do that. So when they cross that line, you let us know and we take care of it. But we typically don't see those. Most of them are minding their own business. They may walk across the street into oncoming traffic, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, we kind of deal with it the best that we can.
That's good. Thank you.
Wow, Kyle, all that under number 5.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to excuse myself from the next meeting. Thank you.
So any other questions on attraction, retention, or incentives?
City meeting?
It's a city related.
You consider this time frame.
Huh? Yeah. It's one of those rare things, there's 3 of them all together. So. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to number 6, Business of the Month program.
We just threw it on here because we were asked to talk about it. We don't have anything formal at this point in time. I know that we were thinking
We'd
of
asked Randy to do some stuff with this, but he's not here again, so.
Yeah, you're right. We're hoping that, and like I said in my previous thing, we're a little bit short-staffed over here, so a lot of these programs we'd love to be able to do and accomplish. There's just not enough hours in the day to roll out these things. So in the past, we had the chamber doing a showcase and things like that, and we may be able to coordinate with the chamber again. I think that's where we're hoping they would come and kind of give an update on where they are at in the process of doing this, and if not, then we can try to do something with us. But so we have a lot of these things on the docket that we'd love to be able to provide the businesses and the residents. It's just in terms of limited resources, we kind of have to get normal business operations done first before we can do some of these showcasing things.
Okay, so what I think we've been doing under topics for future agenda, again, is kind of picking some of the things to either continue or bring forward. And I don't know if we talked about a presentation for the next one. I can't recall.
I may be able to get the Pass Water Agency. That's the water wholesaler that brings the water down from Southern California or from Northern California and then sells it to Dan's agency. They may be here next month in November, and then general plan update will be December. So that should be either Rebecca, the community development director, and or the consultants that have been hired from the city to work on that. So that'll be a really good one for everyone to attend.
So at the last meeting that we had, I remember we had some conversation about the committee and how we would develop goals and kind of chunk those in 3 areas, and I'm just kind of looking at my notes. But I know it was, how do we get direction from the council to say, this is a project that we want the Economic Development Committee to look at, and then what are some other things? And I don't,
My only concern with going down this road is our 2 council members have just excused themselves
yeah.
Right.
for what their input is for
Direction.
direction on what to do.
If you'd like, I
As
could.
said, and I know, again, like we had talked about, you know, like with the Business of the Month program and stuff like that. Again, I know the last meeting, we had asked Chamber to bring some numbers, some ideas, you know, from speaking with their businesses. With them, but obviously we don't have that today so I think that's something we need to bring up again. If Randy can provide, or if he can't, maybe that we need to find a way to put that on a website or something, to maybe put a little survey out for the business owners of what they'd like to see. If that's something we do at a city website level, or, you know, I was hoping Chamber would help with that, but I don't
Maybe
know.
put it first in the agenda before they leave. We can take care of that.
Yeah, it's just answering questions for you. Yeah, for
Well,
you.
he has all the answers, so.
I just made up stuff. He's the one that knows. He's the one that knows the answers. It's a good thing he wasn't here, or else he would have told me I was wrong on everything I just said. Great. Now I'm really nervous. Yeah. So definitely, and to Chairman, for your point, the way I understood what we wanted to talk about was, if the committee came up with a program that they would like to do, or participants of the committee would want to work on, first bring up that idea here, who would want to work on it, what the end result may be, and then we would take that to the council and just say, look, this is something that 4 members of the committee came up with. They think it's a really good program. They want to get it kickstarted. They're going to work on it. Are you okay with that? Does that jive with the council approved goals and objectives for the committee or not? And then if they say yes, then that group of the committee members can go to work on creating whatever program or.
Can I ask you a question? You at the council meetings?
Am I at the
Are
council?
you?
Most, like 95% of them, yeah.
Okay, good. I asked that because, again, topics for future agenda, we talked about slogan, tagline, catchphrase, and all that kind of stuff, which I know did go to council, and they went a different direction. I don't know if anybody knows if that got back to the rest of it, you know.
Yeah, so
I think that's one of the things I'd like to, you know, have some better communication back, I guess, from that of what it is, other than we get here a month later expecting, okay, we'll have something to go that route.
Yeah.
And it died there. They decided to go spend money. So.
Yeah, I probably should have provided an update under the city projects, but I was trying to streamline it for the district, and I knew people had to leave at 5, so.
No, I mean, certainly that, but if there's even a way to provide the feedback prior to us getting here,
Okay.
you know, that way we can come with better ideas, as you say, to put something back on agenda that we could send back to you and say, okay, we know that's gone because that doesn't even need to be there anymore.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
You know, then we can send you that stuff mid-month to say, hey, let's add this to the agenda, give us something to work on.
Yeah.
I just use that as an example because, as I said, I know we discussed that would be something we could discuss
Yep.
this meeting, but, you know, as I said, they went a different direction, so.
So the slogan, tagline, catchphrase, that's out.
My understanding is the city council's decided to hire somebody to do that, as opposed to where we were talking about trying to at least offer something.
Yeah,
They're afraid that we'd be stuck with whatever came.
Yeah, we couldn't see through, staff and council couldn't see through to the end of the process, and that's what Rob had said. Okay, well, when we come back, what's going to be that process that gets us to the finish line, not just opening up the contest, but how do we see that through to the end? And no matter how we ran it, we just couldn't see how the contest would end with a slogan that council would really be happy with. I mean, it could happen, but the chances of that happening were probably fairly slim, and we did not want to force council to approve a slogan for the whole city just because we had a contest. And that's kind of where we were at from staff's perspective, and we felt that it could really have some pushback from the council on management if we went that way and then we didn't come up with a good one. So we haven't hired anyone officially to do that, but I think that's where council was, council and Todd were interested in going, which was the end result will be the same thing. We'll have a marketing phrase or a slogan. It just will be from a professional marketing firm with the input from city council versus it being derived from a grassroots community contest. So I think that while the end result didn't necessarily come from the committee in terms of the project, we may have instituted the same thing in a different shape or fashion. So us talking about it here at the committee level, coming up with an idea that was pitched to council may get us that tagline. It just may be in a different fashion than we originally thought of. So I don't want to use that example as a negative on, okay, this is what happens when we come up with ideas, because
And I didn't mean it that way. It's
I
just
don't think
from
you
the
did,
from
yeah.
the process perspective, like, yeah, that got dealt with.
yeah, I should have
And so
reported
we can-
back on it.
We can move that off and then pick something that we, I know that was part of the plan of today, was to do some things like that, where we might have said, hey, why don't we throw something else up the chain to discuss for today or not? It would just help me,
Sure.
And I think that going back to 7.1 or I, talking about what those committee goals were. I know we had a document, but to kind of boil down, these are the things that we're going to work on and have some kind of consensus on that. I don't know if we did that. I don't recall.
We haven't done that yet, so we kind of pitched them to council, they approved them. We haven't had a follow-up at the committee level to discuss kind of which ones we want to focus on or what ideas any of the committee members have come up with within each of those goals or the mission statement itself.
I would like to see that in the agenda when we don't have the speaker concept, where we have some time.
Okay.
That we're
That
not
makes
stuck into,
sense.
hey, everybody's got
That makes
15
sense.
minutes before we gotta get out of here type.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That we can, and to me, I would rather push that up the chain as much as I certainly think the utilities are extremely important. The one problem we have with the utilities at this point is there's some things like the general plan that we have limiting what we can do down those roads anyway.
Yeah.
So,
And utilities are not under council's control either.
right,
So-
we have a limit, there's certainly not gonna be any changes in the way that's working for the next 6 to 10 months.
Oh, no way.
So,
Yep.
for us, I would rather like to see us get down that road of coming up with some things to work on.
Okay.
If we get a full committee again.
We didn't do too bad today, but
We did pretty good. The only issue is we have the vacancies, so it seems slim compared to
Definitely
that.
smaller with the 2 vacancies.
Yeah.
So if you know someone that, the issue we're having with some of the businesses is I had interested parties, but because they own a business in Beaumont, they would have to disclose their income from that business in Beaumont. And they're just not willing to put their income out there publicly like Avtab, Terrence, and I are already used to. Because if you Google search our name or on the state website, you're going to find how much we make with our incentive. And you go ahead and look, not much. So,
that's right. That's right.
so
Except for Terrence.
yeah,
That's right. No, I'm saying it's all relative.
yeah, all relative based on work duties. So, but people that are from the private sector are not used to that,
Certainly.
and they're not interested in it.
I wouldn't.
So I understand, and that's kind of some of the issues we're having. So that's why I said if you know someone that lives in Beaumont, one of your friends or family that owns a business somewhere else or recently retired,
Right?
those
Recent
are all
experience,
we're in business
no
on
longer
that.
need to disclose.
Yeah, or worked for a developer or something like that and has retired. that's going to be good enough for us to go to council and say, because we've not had a huge swath of applications coming in for interest. So anyone that meets some of those criterias, let them know, and hopefully they'll apply. Because I've had conversations with 3 or 4 people that I know fairly well, and they're all interested until I tell them, well, you have to do this. And then they think about it for a little bit, and then they come back and like, I just can't volunteer to put my income level on a website.
But you would be okay if we shared like the link for that application to everybody that we come into contact
Oh,
with?
of course. And
Do that.
the way I understand it is if you own a business somewhere else, then you're not required to disclose it because this committee cannot enact any impact on that business. Something that happens here, if we recommend an incentive program
And it benefits.
and you own a business in Redlands, it's not going to affect you. So you don't have to disclose your income on that business in Redlands.
Okay.
So under 7, definitely discussion of economic development community goals. Anything else we want to bring forward?
General plan update will come in December.
December, right?
December, okay.
It sounds like you said also 7.4 is being dealt with a little bit, that there's a current thing on the website asking for input from the citizens of what they'd like to see
It's
in the downtown area.
It's kind of like that. I mean, it's not really the
There's
contest,
certainly some guidelines
but it's
for where,
what you in your head want to see in that area.
right.
What intensity works for you, what things are just an absolute no, and every person has a different vision or opinion on
Right.
what they think is too much or not enough.
But certainly if we're gonna have a citywide opinion of what it should look like, I think we should take that in consideration before moving forward anyway.
Yeah.
If that's got a couple months to finish out.
Was that the community character survey? Or is
Yes.
that something?
I think that's what it is.
Okay, so yeah, it is on the Facebook thing. That you could click to it and go to there.
Yep.
Okay. And I think that would give us enough time to kind of do some work around what the community goals are. If we just want to focus on that in updates.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
If you want to
Hi.
think of incentives or types of things like that, by all means, like I said, we use our low crime rate as an incentive. That's something that doesn't cost us anything. I mean, it costs him stuff, but it's something that he already has plugged into the budget. It's just, in those types of things, you may think of some of them that I'm just not pitching when I meet with these people or these businesses. So if you have any ideas like that, bring them on in, and we can add them to our list of things that or a place why you want to do business in Beaumont or why you want to expand or open.
Has that SWOT analysis helped you?
It has helped me.
Yeah?
Yeah. I could use that as a guiding tool on what things we want to promote. And then some of those weaknesses were some of the things we've been talking about today in terms of water availability. It's like, okay, let's listen to the district. What do they have going on? What's their main constraint on why that's a weakness, and what can be done, if anything, to shore up that weakness and make it a strength. It's for water, it's not that easy, but we'll see what we can do. Hopefully we can work out something with the district for recycled water, and maybe their board will think about adopting incentives based on job creation, kind of the same way we do.
okay, anything else for the good of the order? Okay, let's go ahead and adjourn at 5:28.